The Senator from Michigan.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And it's always wonderful to work with my friend and colleague from Ohio, and certainly we share a tremendous partnership and passion about our Great Lakes. For us in Michigan, we're a peninsula. We are surrounded by the Great Lakes, and we really believe it's about our way of life. My friend has talked about the fishing industry and the boating industry, and 40 million people get their drinking water from the Great Lakes Basin. But in Michigan, where we have more lighthouses all around Michigan, actually, than any other shoreline in the country, and where we say we have the ocean without the salt. And it is very much in our DNA for us in Michigan. So as the Senator from Ohio indicated, the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative focuses on a number of things that deal with water quality and stopping the spread of Asian carp and other invasive species, restoring the shoreline, preventing future contaminations. And I have to say, as a personal point of pride, in 2010, I authored the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative as a member of the Senate Budget Committee. And since that time, we have had we have funded 5,449 different projects throughout the entire region of the Great Lakes, including 880 projects in Michigan. And we are seeing tangible results. As Senator Portman has indicated, this is a partnership, public-private. It's with local communities. It's with state governments. It's the federal government. We in Michigan have had 4 areas of concern that had been labeled because of the seriousness of what was happening to the water and the water quality. They have now been removed from those areas of concern where the communities work together using Great Lakes restoration funding and working with the communities, and they've been delisted, which is a good thing. That means things have improved. You can fish again. You can swim again. You can enjoy the water again. And so we are seeing tremendous tangible results for what we have been able to do together. And it's also important to note that for every $1 we put into investments through this important program, it produces $3 in economic return. So it is fiscally responsible. It is responsible stewardship for all of us in protecting our fresh waters of our country. And what we are doing in this legislation basically would allow us to, over the next 5 years, raise the authorization level back up to where it started in 2010. It's been up and down and up and down and up and down, and this would allow us to be able, within the next 5 years, to get that authorization back up into where it was. And so we do have the support of the body, but as I would now move, Mr. President, that if in legislative session, I would ask unanimous consent that the Committee on EPW be discharged from further consideration of H.R. 4031 and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration.
Clerk will report.
H.R. 4031, an act to amend the Federal Water Pollution Control Act to reauthorize the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative and for other purposes.
Without objection, the committee is discharged, and the Senate will proceed to the measure.
Mr. President, I would ask unanimous consent that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Without objection.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And let me say again what a pleasure it is to work with my friend from Ohio. And I want to take one other moment just to also speak and thank everyone that is involved at this point in getting us to where we are on this very important survival package. I've never felt this was a COVID stimulus. It's about helping people survive over the next several months, whether that's making sure they've got a roof over their head and food on the table, can pay the bills, keep the heat on. In places like North Dakota and places like Ohio, it's going to get pretty cold this winter. And our small businesses, our farmers, our schools that need help to be able to proceed, all the support we need to provide for vaccine distribution and health care and all of the other areas. This has been a tough negotiation. I do want to say on a couple of points that where I've been deeply involved, and I want to thank the presiding officer, Mr. President, for your support and help on our nutrition and agriculture pieces. We have come together in a very important step that's going to allow more people to get help to feed their families over the next several months. No small thing. We have a hunger crisis in our country. We have people who have donated to the food bank, worked for the food bank, now sitting for hours in cars, waiting to drive up and get a box of food in the United States of America. And so what we are doing as part of this package is going to be significant to help people be able to purchase food in the grocery store, as well as get help in other ways, help our seniors with Meals on Wheels, help our children who aren't able to be eating in school right now, and our college students that don't have the opportunity to be on campus in getting support. So we have very significant food access and nutrition, very positive efforts in this legislation. And for our farmers as well across the country, significant support as well as help in our food chain, supply chain areas where we have all been concerned as we've watched those involved in the bulk supply chain be able to lose their markets in restaurants and so on, but not have the support and the capacity to take that milk or take those other commodities and be able to move them over and package them differently for consumers to go to the food bank. We make some headway in supporting that as well in this legislation. So I want to thank my colleagues. This is really the last negotiation that Senator Roberts and I have led as he retires this year. And it's been, as I said before, a great pleasure to work with him and to be able to achieve this effort, bipartisan effort. The one other thank you I just want to give is in a whole nother area that has been a passion of mine. I've been proud to lead with a colleague from Missouri, Senator Roy Blunt. We have very significant support as well for behavioral health services, mental health, substance abuse services that are desperately needed and have been amplified, and the need has been expanded even more because of what has happened with the coronavirus. And so important support in this legislation as well, and grateful to be involved in pushing that forward as well. So more to talk about. I know we're a little ways away from that final vote, but I'm hopeful that the coalition that was formed, that all of us working together, that brought this together and negotiated, and my colleagues who initiated this bipartisan effort will find that this is a coalition we want to keep going for next year, because there's so much more that we need to do together. And the American people expect us to get things done. And this, I hope, is the first step of many to celebrate ways that we're solving problems and helping people and moving the country forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Senator from Ohio.
First, I want to agree with my colleague from Michigan and thank her for her work with regard to behavioral health and working with us in the bipartisan group on both behavioral health and addiction, because unfortunately during this pandemic, the epidemic of drug addiction and drug overdoses and overdose deaths has increased dramatically. And it's a heartbreaking reality, because we were making progress thanks to work here in this chamber and at the state and around the country. We were actually reducing not just the number of people addicted, but the number of people who were suffering from overdoses and overdose deaths. And unfortunately, this year we're now going to see the largest overdose death rate in the history of our country, we believe. That is a sad reality, and we need to address it, and that's part of the COVID-19 package, along with the behavioral health issues that are also, unfortunately, being exacerbated by the isolation that comes with the COVID-19 issue and the helplessness, probably, and the joblessness that we're seeing. Mr. President, I'd like unanimous consent to offer into the record, at the place in the record where we talk about the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, one other point from Senator Stabenow and myself, that we want to congratulate and thank our colleagues in the House for working with us on this Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, and in particular, the two co-chairs in the House of the Great Lakes Task Force and the two co-authors of the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative legislation, and that would be Representative Marcy Kaptur of Ohio and Representative David Joyce from Ohio. So we'd like to thank them for their good work and congratulate them on tonight's passage as well.
Without objection,
Yield back. I note the absence of a quorum.
clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander.